If you have ever felt that manifesting your desires was more difficult than it should be, as if, no matter how hard you tried to visualize or set intentions, something kept you stuck, this may be the most crucial idea you ever encounter. There is a reason your efforts often seem to work against you. It is not due to a lack of discipline or clarity. It is because most of what you have been taught about creating change relies on force, forcing your mind to think positively, forcing your body to remain motivated, and forcing reality to bend to your will. But in the realm of quantum physics and consciousness, force is rarely the catalyst for transformation. Instead, a phenomenon known as frequency interference explains why so many people become exhausted chasing results that never seem to materialize. When your internal state is filled with effort, tension, and the anxiety of wanting something to happen, you introduce noise into your signal. From the perspective of the quantum field, your energy becomes inconsistent. One part of you broadcasts desire, while another broadcasts the fear that it will not arrive. The field responds to the totality of that signal, not just your stated intention. In this video, you will learn about what I call the quantum frequency shift, a change in state so fundamental that it reorganizes your entire relationship with reality. It is not about thinking harder or working more. It is about creating a coherent frequency within your own field that resonates with what you are choosing to experience. The paradox is this: the moment you stop forcing reality to comply with your will, the energy you have been scattering in frustration consolidates. Your nervous system calms, your awareness expands, and you move from a contracted signal to a harmonious one. In that state, the field begins to reflect your intention more clearly. If this sounds abstract, consider the science behind it. Every thought you have produces an electromagnetic signature. Every emotional state generates measurable patterns in your heart and brain. When you are stressed, your heart rhythm becomes erratic, your breath constricts, and your brain waves fragment into disordered frequencies. This is called incoherence, and it creates what researchers describe as biological noise. Think of it like trying to tune an old radio to a clear station while static blares in the background. No matter how beautiful the music is, you cannot hear it because the signal is not clean. This is why many people spend years repeating affirmations or visualization techniques without experiencing meaningful change. They are layering positive thoughts over a body that remains in survival mode. They are projecting desire while embodying resistance. Consequently, no matter how many times they say, "I am abundant," the field receives the underlying vibration of lack. The quantum frequency shift is not a method you do. It is a shift you allow by creating the conditions for coherence to arise naturally. It is about aligning your physiology and awareness so that your energy stabilizes into a singular, powerful signal. Today, you will learn how to create this shift and why it does not require you to be perfect or constantly monitor every thought. You will see that your nervous system is capable of reorganizing itself when you simply provide it with the right inputs: slower breathing, an intention rooted in curiosity rather than desperation, and a willingness to let go of urgency. Every outcome in your life has been shaped by the frequency you consistently broadcast, not the one you occasionally visit when inspired, but the one you return to when no one is watching. When you understand this, it becomes clear why no amount of striving can override a chronically incoherent signal. But the moment you experience coherence, something shifts. You feel a softening, an openness, a quiet sense that you do not need to prove or chase anything. And ironically, it is in this state of non-attachment that reality begins to respond in ways you once thought required immense effort. If you have ever wondered whether this idea of a frequency shift is merely a spiritual metaphor or something science can actually measure, you are not alone. It is natural to seek evidence before trusting something that sounds intangible. What is extraordinary about the intersection of quantum physics, neuroscience, and ancient spiritual traditions is that they all converge on the same principle. Your internal state is not just a feeling, it is a signal that is shaping how reality unfolds around you. Let's begin with the science. In neurocardiology, researchers have discovered that your heart produces the most powerful electromagnetic field in your body, many times stronger than that of your brain. This field extends several feet beyond your skin and is measurable. When you feel frustration or anxiety, your heart rhythm becomes jagged and erratic, a state of incoherence. This is the signature of a nervous system in defense mode. The problem is, when your heart rhythm is disordered, your brain waves become chaotic, your breath shortens, and your perception narrows to scan for threats. In modern life, this often becomes a chronic baseline, broadcasting a signal of stress into the quantum field. Contrast this with the state of coherence, when you intentionally slow your breathing and focus on feelings of appreciation or calm. Your heart rhythm becomes smooth, sine wave-like. Scientists call this heart-brain coherence, and it has measurable effects. Stress hormones decrease, regenerative hormones increase, and brain waves synchronize with your heart rhythm. This is not theory, it is data. From a quantum perspective, coherence creates a stable power frequency that interacts with the incoherent. Imagine tuning forks. When one vibrates, a nearby fork begins to resonate with the same frequency through a phenomenon called entrainment. Your coherent field works similarly. When you maintain this state, you entrain your environment and the probabilities within the field to match your signal. This is why in elevated states, synchronicities appear more often, and life begins to feel like it is flowing with you. Ancient traditions described this state long before modern science. Yogic texts spoke of samadhi, deep presence. Mystics called it surrender, and Taoist philosophy knows it as Wu Wei, effortless action. While the language varies, the essence is the same. When you release resistance and align your inner state, reality reorganizes itself in response. Coherence does not mean you never feel fear or doubt. It means you do not live there. You learn to witness those fluctuations without collapsing your entire energy field into them. This is why the quantum frequency shift is not about forcing yourself to feel good. It is about cultivating the conditions that allow coherence to arise naturally. Effort is often a symptom of misalignment. The harder you push, the more you signal to the field that you are separate from what you want. The more you release and attune, the more naturally life reflects your inner state. The quantum field does not respond to volume, it responds to clarity. Now that you understand the science and philosophy behind coherence, you are ready to experience the quantum frequency shift for yourself. This practice is not complicated, but it requires something most people find surprisingly difficult: the willingness to stop striving. The moment you stop trying to force reality, you create the conditions for your field to reorganize itself. It is essential to approach this practice with curiosity instead of expectation. When you bring that quality of openness, the technique becomes a doorway you can return to as often as you like. Here is how you do it. First, find a place where you can sit comfortably without interruption for a few minutes. What matters most is that you feel safe to turn your attention inward. Begin by closing your eyes and taking a slow, deliberate inhale through your nose, letting your belly expand. Exhale softly through your mouth, allowing your shoulders to drop. Repeat this 3 or 4 times. This first step is physiological priming. By slowing your breath, you signal to your nervous system that you are safe, and your heart rhythm begins to shift toward coherence. Next, bring your attention to your heart center. You can place a hand over your chest to help you focus. Imagine each inhale drawing a subtle, luminous energy into your heart, and each exhale spreading this energy throughout your body. Now, here is where the shift occurs. Gently introduce the feeling of appreciation. This does not need to be a dramatic wave of emotion. It can be as simple as gratitude for your breath or the quiet space you have created. Authenticity is key. Even a small, genuine feeling has a powerful impact on your frequency. Hold this focus for a minute or 2. You may start to feel subtle changes, a warmth, a sense of expansion, or a quiet stillness. This is the beginning of coherence. Once you feel stable, you can introduce a question that dissolves resistance. What would it feel like if this was already resolved? Do not look for an intellectual answer. Instead, let your body respond. You might notice a softening in your chest or a sense of openness. This embodied response is evidence that your nervous system is exiting the stress loop. When you ask this question, you bypass the logical mind that wants to control and predict, and you move into the domain of frequency, the language the quantum field understands. Think of this as tuning an instrument. You are not forcing the strings into harmony, but gently adjusting tension until resonance occurs. You can practice this technique anytime to set your baseline frequency or when you feel yourself slipping into stress. When you begin practicing the quantum frequency shift consistently, you will likely notice that life does not necessarily become easier overnight, but the way you experience it changes fundamentally. This is one of the first signs that your frequency is stabilizing. Your sense of peace is no longer dependent on external proof. One of the most powerful shifts you will notice is that urgency dissolves. The constant background noise of "I have to figure this out" begins to quiet down. You find yourself responding to situations rather than reacting. Decisions arise from clarity, not anxiety. Paradoxically, as you let go of the compulsion to force, you often see more movement in your external life. Projects that were stuck begin to open up, and resources start to show up with less friction. This is not magic, it is resonance. The clearer your signal, the easier it is for reality to organize itself around your frequency. Let's look at a few examples of how this often manifests. 1. Synchronicity increases. You might think of someone and they call you. These experiences are not coincidences. They are evidence that your field is interacting more fluidly with the larger web of possibility. 2. Relationships recalibrate. People who resonate with your old patterns may naturally drift away, while new connections enter your life with a sense of ease. 3. Your body feels different. Many people report improved sleep, steadier energy, and a softer baseline in their nervous system. 4. You feel less reactive. Challenges still arise, but they do not feel like personal threats. You find yourself observing instead of immediately contracting. 5. A quiet sense of trust emerges. Perhaps the most life-changing effect is a feeling that you do not have to prove yourself to anyone. You know in an embodied way that your worth does not hinge on achievements. This trust is magnetic. When these shifts begin to surface, you are not imagining progress, you are experiencing it. The more consistently you cultivate coherence, the more naturally you stabilize in a frequency that attracts experiences aligned with who you are becoming. If you have been practicing the quantum frequency shift or any form of vibrational alignment, you have probably noticed how quickly the mind wants to turn it into another performance, another way to measure, judge, and prove your worth. This is almost inevitable in the beginning, as we have all been conditioned to believe that results only come through effort and control. But this is one of the greatest paradoxes you will encounter. The more you chase a certain state, the more you reinforce the feeling that you do not have it. The more you try to force coherence, the more you signal to the field that you are still operating from separation. This is why so many people get stuck in cycles of frustration. They start with sincere intention, feel a moment of peace, and then their mind immediately begins to ask, is this working? Why don't I feel it more strongly? Why hasn't everything changed yet? These questions are understandable. They come from the part of you taught to measure progress by external markers. But in the quantum realm, the field does not respond to impatience or self-criticism. It responds to clarity and consistency. Let's look at the most common pitfalls that can pull you back into incoherence. 1. Trying to force an emotion you do not genuinely feel. Many believe they must manufacture bliss to elevate their frequency, but forced emotion creates inner conflict. If you are feeling doubt, pretending to feel grateful only adds resistance. Instead, start with something real, even if it feels small, like the relief of taking a deeper breath. Authenticity carries far more coherence than any performance. 2. Using the practice as a strategy to manipulate outcomes. It is natural to hope your life will improve, but if your primary motive is to get something from the field quickly, you slip back into force. The shift works best when you see coherence as an end in itself. 3. Becoming hypervigilant about every thought. It is tempting to monitor your mind obsessively, panicking at every negative thought. But this hypercontrol creates more incoherence. The field does not require perfection. It responds to your dominant frequency over time. 4. Expecting immediate dramatic change. While some shifts can feel instant, transformation is more often incremental. If you keep measuring progress by how fast reality rearranges, you will miss the subtle indicators that your frequency is already rising. Deeper sleep, more spontaneous calm, less reactivity. 5. Abandoning the practice when life becomes challenging. Ironically, the moments you feel most contracted are when coherence can serve you most powerfully. But many stop, assuming the practice is not working. This is when it is most important to return to the basics. When you understand these patterns, you stop seeing them as failures. You recognize them as part of the learning curve. This is what mastery looks like. Not an unbroken state of bliss, but a willingness to keep choosing alignment each time you drift away. Instead of asking, did I manifest what I wanted today? Try asking, did I return to coherence more often? When you make coherence the priority, external shifts become inevitable, not because you forced them, but because you finally stopped scattering your signal. Now, let's bring everything together and experience this shift for yourself. This practice can serve as a powerful reset. Find a quiet place to sit comfortably. Gently close your eyes. Take a slow, steady inhale through your nose, feeling your belly expand. Hold for a moment, then release softly through your mouth. Repeat this 2 more times. Bring your attention to the space in the center of your chest. As you breathe, invite a simple feeling of appreciation into your awareness for your breath, for this quiet moment. Let this feeling expand gently without force. Now, introduce a single question into the space of your heart. What would it feel like if I stopped forcing? Do not look for an answer in words. Let your body respond. Perhaps there is a small sense of relief, a soft exhale, a quiet spaciousness. This is coherence. This is the frequency beneath all striving. You are not trying to create anything. You are simply remembering what it feels like to be in resonance. If you found value here, I invite you to stay connected. Subscribing to this channel is about joining a community of people ready to live from this place of coherence together, a space where your evolution is supported, one breath at a time. Thank you for the quiet courage it takes to let go of force and trust the intelligence of your own field.